Today is February the 14th.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
But it certainly does not have to be that way. I'm recording this in my room because if my sister catches me doing this, she is going to make fun of me so much. Are you a single Christian who's finding it very difficult to be content in this time of singleness? Or you may even find it difficult and painful to walk through this time, especially during Valentine's Day. And if you think having a spouse will solve all of your problems, or at least increase just your enjoyment of life by a lot, and if you find it hard to find a partner because maybe you don't really fit into the criteria for being attractive, whether it be physically, you're just not fitting into the current idea of what an attractive person is, or maybe you don't have a favorable career, you don't really have that much of a good job, you are not making that much money, or your personality and interests don't really just align with the people around you. So it's hard to find common ground, and it's hard to find someone that you vibe with, right? That you could be intimate with. Or maybe you made some mistakes with relationships in the past, and now you are blaming yourself for putting yourself in this spot where you're really struggling, having a lot of misery in your singleness. If any of that describes you, then this video is for you, and it's an attempt from me to help you because we have something in common. Before we start this conversation, I think one thing to make it very clear is that I strongly believe that for those who are called to being married is a very, very good thing. And it brings tremendous benefits, practical benefits to living life. So it is not just a add-on, right? It is a feature of life for those who are called to it. And I'm well aware that marriage, it is not a requirement for every single person. I am also of the persuasion that nowadays, most of the Christian slogans that I hear trying to address the struggle of singleness is not very helpful for those who are having a genuine struggle. At least this is my perspective as someone who has read those slogans. But I am also persuaded that singleness certainly does serve a purpose. And it's our choice to make the best of it. Or it is also our choice to walk in it like we're the most miserable person in the world. So in this video, we are going to talk about some advice that I'm going to give to you from my personal experience about how to make the best of your time being single. We will get into that in just a second. But before that, one universal advice that I would give to all Christians who are considering a relationship or are already in a relationship. This is the one thing that I'm going to advise you is you have to understand the seriousness and the meaning and the function of a biblical marriage. So one book I would highly suggest is Timothy Keller's The Meaning of Marriage. In that book, it has basically everything you need to properly understand what a biblical marriage means, what it's for, and a lot of the practical implication and practical advice. So definitely check that out. Just from me though, I'm going to tell you that my understanding of a biblical marriage, it's a lifelong commitment, and there are very little exceptions where you can end a marriage. The only ones I see in scripture are adultery, abandonment, or abuse, okay? Only those three options. I know this is not a very nuanced discussion. That's why I suggest you to really study this for yourself and to look into some other resources to properly understand this. And that is the most biblical advice I can give you. The rest is just from personal reflections and things I've learned. So it might not apply to you. You need to watch this with discernment and really think about it for yourself, because my life is not your life and my experiences are not your experiences, okay? But here goes. Advice number one is this. I had to learn that it is okay to look for a partner, for a relationship, and I don't have to feel ashamed for wanting it. I was always told that independence and being self-fulfilled, that those are prerequisites for having a romantic relationship. Before that, I shouldn't even think about it. But this is simply not true. Independence and self-fulfillment is a completely different category than our need to share our lives with someone, with that special someone. Once we meet that person, all that, however independent you are, however self-fulfilled you are, those will go out the window because you find a completely new set of needs. It's a different category of needs. So being needy and desiring very badly for a relationship, it's not necessarily a fault. It could be a fault at times if you're being obsessive, but we need to unlearn the lie that love is only for those who have completely figured it out, who are completely independent, and who are completely self-fulfilled. That is just not the way we're biologically wired. We are wired to want someone as a companion. Let's kind of throw away this act that we really need to get everything together before we can even think about it. It is just not true, and I think it's a harmful mindset. And of course, this doesn't just have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a good friendship, a companionship, somebody that you can trust and really fall back on, okay? Without this, we do not function very well as individuals. So for me personally, I really had to be okay with the fact that there are simply things I just can't toughen up to do if I don't have a person that I can trust, that has my back. And I have acknowledged that having that person in my life really will allow me to do so much more, to be more ambitious, to be more hardworking, to be more motivated. So I should not be ashamed of searching. I had to learn to remove that sense of shame for wanting someone. And I think it really stems from this idea I had early on in my Christian life, where it's like the focus on God only and not a relationship. Stop thinking about it, just focus on God, and then it'll fall right into your lap. That kind of mindset. And I think it's well intended, but it really makes marriage is a God ordained thing. It makes marriage into something you should be ashamed of if you are desiring or actively seeking. And so I had to stop hiding the idea that I was wanting a relationship or a partner, right? I stopped hiding it because it's a good thing and I really shouldn't hide it. It does make life better when done right. And I've known this the entire time, but somehow I became ashamed of having this idea. It's probably because at one point, how badly something could work out, as it did for me in the past, as well as the bad messaging I was receiving before regarding these things that had created a bad image in my head. So in conclusion, drop the tough guy act, drop the lone wolf act, and just acknowledge what you want, right? At least be honest about it. Now, the one thing that I am still having a hard time understanding is whether God could be that companion for us or not. It has certainly worked out for some people, but for me, I don't think it'll work out anytime soon, because really, he is not talking to me. In the sense that, of course, he talks to me through the scriptures, but he's not audibly there, and I can't see him, and I do not feel it if he gives me a hug. Okay, it's just very impersonal at this stage in life. Okay, advice number 2 is you have to try your best to gain as accurate and as realistic of a perspective on a marriage and a relationship as possible. You have to remove any idealized fantasies that you have made up in your head of what it looks like, because this will only cause disappointment when that ideal relationship doesn't turn out to be reality. You have to understand things that different people have different personality types. Different people feel love in different capacities. There's different communication styles between different people, and different people have different attachment styles. And there's many, many more things that you have to consider, and I'm still learning about these things. But you must learn that it is difficult to make a marriage work really, really well. And I would suggest you talk to some older people around you and understand some of the struggles and problems they have to walk through together as a couple. Marriage is not all rainbows, unicorn, and roses. There's some very, very nasty stuff that both parties have to walk through together. And we need to understand that as single people, so we don't fall into the trap and then eventually lead to something we might regret. Advice number 3 is have a realistic view of yourself. What can you offer in a relationship right now if you were to get into one right now? If you can't offer a lot, then why do you think somebody who you might want to get in a relationship with, the best partner you can think of, why would they consider you as a person? And when I say this, I don't mean you change yourself and you improve just to attract more people. I mean that you improve and you change so you can better serve your future spouse. Okay, some of the things I can think of is number 1, you need to consider, Can you realistically support a spouse right now? Another person in your life with needs and wants that you need to provide for, right? And I don't mean just financially, I mean physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Everyone's got needs. Can you provide those things right now at your current state? If not, are you at least working towards it? Are there things about yourself that you can improve upon, like your physical health? If it's not very good, are you trying to improve that? Maybe your mental health, the way you look, the way you live your life, how interesting you are. If you're truly just a sorry walking flaming garbage dump, then why are you presenting yourself like this to people who could be the one you spend the rest of your life with? Why not present the best version of yourself that you could possibly work towards right now to the person that is going to be the most important person to you for the rest of your life? And I understand that it could be very difficult to have motivation for these things when you don't even have a prospect of a person that you want to pursue, or maybe you don't even have a hope for getting into a relationship in the future. Well, so those are our choices, right? There is no easy answer to this. And the easiest answer I can offer you, or the things that I talked about before, is to work your hardest to become the best version of yourself. There's no easy way out. If we are waiting on God for something to happen, does he want us to just sit in the dump the entire time and be miserable? I don't think so. If you do not have the qualities of someone who can hold a good relationship, if you're not someone that will benefit both parties when you are in a relationship, think back on the seriousness of a biblical marriage. It is a very, very serious and holy thing that God really, really cares about. You will be putting in a lot of effort. If you don't put in a lot of effort, it will be a miserable thing to go through. So you must increase your chances of being able to weather through a relationship, because a relationship is hard. If you are weak in certain important areas, you must strengthen those areas when you can, because what you are preparing for, again, it is not rainbows and roses. Do you have, and you need to be really honest with this, any qualities that will be detrimental to a good relationship, that'll drag it down? And are you doing anything about it? Some examples are addictions, attachment issues, and mental health issues. And again, these are very difficult things to overcome by yourself, but you might as well get started now and before you drag anyone into this problem, right? Again, do your best to minimize these things, because a relationship is just that important. It is just so worth it. And it's that precious in God's eyes. If you're just sitting around and not doing anything about these things, then you better have a good excuse, right? If you're without any excuse, then do you really want a relationship as badly as you say you do? Because if you really want this really, really important and precious thing, then you must work really, really hard at it. And the hard truth I give to you is this: if you have a conviction for these things, but you really aren't doing anything about it, then maybe you don't really care that much. Maybe you care more about yourself and your fulfillment than fulfilling the vision Christ has for a marriage, and the thing that mirrors his relationship with the church. Okay? Hard words. Advice number 4. Actually get out there and actively seek a relationship, and don't just wait on God to drop a pie from the sky to land on your lap. Okay? Not all of it is up to chance. And if you treat providence as chance, then stop counting on that. You have to put some work into it. You have to put things into action. And this is quite frustrating to see. I know how hard it is to get out there and break the ice and know new people and to talk to them. And I know how hard and discouraging it can be when things don't work out, and when you're actively on the look all the time, and you have to juggle all of these things together. And again, there really isn't an easy way out. Some people get lucky and they meet someone, and it just instantly click, or they know someone from childhood and they just kind of just have to wait till a certain age, and then they can be forever happily ever after. Or sometimes God does drop a pie in your lap, and again, forever happily ever after. But for the rest of us, there is no easy answer. If we're not willing to get ourselves out there, to suffer, to work a little hard at it, then we lessen our chance of that reward we are seeking. Sometimes God's plan might require some action on our part as well. Advice number 5 is this: we cannot idolize a relationship. If a relationship, a marriage, is the be-all end-all, is the ultimate thing, although I have a small chance of a relationship working out super, super well, and it's just oh so fulfilling. But what if I don't get that ideal relationship and I've elevated relationship to such a high place where it really is the be all end all for me? Why would anyone with a sound reasoning and someone who's godly enter into a marriage covenant with somebody who actively does idolatry? Advice number 6 is this: try to learn how to do things just by yourself, or just with friends, or with you and God. Okay? And I know I mentioned earlier that there are certain things that we just can't really get to our maximum potential without someone we trust, but that doesn't mean we can't try to get a little better at being by ourselves and enjoying the company of me. Okay? This will make you an interesting person as well when you are able to go explore your passions and your interests when it's just yourself. Okay? I don't think a lot of people, when they realize that somebody has nothing really going for them, no interest, no passion, no nothing, and they just want to follow someone else around the whole time. Unless you want a pet, then that's probably not going to be too appealing to you if you are going to spend the rest of your life with that person. And everyone needs their alone time, right? Extroverts, introverts, everybody needs some alone time, and your future spouse included. So if you just want to be with someone all the time, that might be something to tone down on. Advice number 7 is to remove ourselves from content that will drag us further down into our misery of singleness. There's lots of content online that capitalizes on being depressed, or is people venting about their depression. It is a space for people to vent, fine. But I would not recommend you to go look at those things or to like those things if you're actively struggling with it, because that will just drag you further down. Even though those posts might be a place of honesty, I would rather not stay in that place. I want to look forward. I want to look forward to a better time, and I don't really want to stay in this state right now. And I have found that just for myself, when I look at those things, I develop a self-pitying mindset, and I kind of sit in it for a really, really long time. So it might work for you. I don't know. I'm not you. But for me personally, I would go on to look for happier and more hopeful things. Advice number 8, staying on the topic of online content, is to not grow resentful in your singleness. And there's a lot of that online right now. It is very common to see the bashing of the opposite gender, or maybe some certain groups of people online. Some examples are, as a guy, I do see some content where men are talking a lot about why women could be cruel and unreasonable in relationships and how they get screwed over by their exes, and women saying the same thing. And there's also some content on people, let's talk about attachment types, where certain attachment types are actually being bashed because, again, they're being unreasonable and they cause pain. And then watching those things, we could get into a mindset of being really, really resentful towards the opposite sex, or towards whatever kinds of people that we think are causing us pain, and we build this caricature of them in our heads, and then we hate on it. We just hate on it. Too much resentment drives conflict, and it makes the issue worse. What are you trying to accomplish here? Are you actually trying to find some hope and stability and happiness, or are you just here to throw some stones, right? Resentment could kill your chance of finding love, because, again, you build a caricature of the certain group of people when you could really be looking upon them with love and find that hidden gem, right? And additionally, a lot of these types of content make it seem like the odds are stacked up against you. Who is this you I'm talking about? It's everybody. Men think the odds are stacked up against them in relationship. Women think the odds are stacked up against them. Certain personality types, or whatever. We could all get into this victim mindset, and maybe some of it is more true than other claims. I do not care. I do not care for myself. My friends, this kind of mindset does not get you anywhere in life. If you stay in it, that's your choice, but you deal with whatever consequences that come, okay? Staying in a victim mindset, it just kind of bogs you down. It ties you up. and it doesn't get you to wherever you want to be. Advice number 9 is to ask yourself this question: do I truly love someone for who they are? And more importantly, do I love someone for who I see their potential to be? Okay? Or who I see God will make them to be? Or am I just liking somebody on a very surface level to meet my own needs and my own desires? Are we just looking at the present, or are we looking further into the future? Advice number 10. This is not a hard rule, but something good to think about. How well do you measure up to your own standards? And additionally, if you had a daughter or a son, would you allow them to date yourself? If not, then maybe there's something that needs to be changed, okay? Here's a helpful advice. A lot of people want to date up, right? Date someone that's kind of above their level, past their circle, maybe a way to say it. Helpful advice is this: seek not a perfect partner, but a partner who has the potential to be really great. Advice number 2 in this category is evaluate your secondary preferences for a spouse, right? There's primary ones like being a Christian. There's some other important things that's up to you, but secondary ones would be like, how they look, what they talk like, how they dress, things like this, right? A lot of those things are just vanity and will fade away in time. Decade, 2 decades, 5 decades. Which qualities that you have in your preferences will actually last the testing of time? This is very important to consider. Advice number 11 is this: am I being honest in all of this? Am I presenting a realistic version of myself, or am I just presenting a front? Okay? Am I presenting a fake best version of myself, or have I actually gotten there and I'm just presenting what is there? If I need to present a front to attract people, then that is deceit, and that will not stand well, and the house of cards will come falling down. Advice number 12 is this: am I genuinely praying for the right person to come? Am I praying about all of these things? And if there is a person already in your mind, are you truly praying for their best, or are you just praying for God to do what you want? Okay, I think this is one of the most important things. Thanks for making it to the end of this video. These are some of the things that I'm working on myself to make the best of my time of singleness and to best prepare for a godly marriage. Just one last word of encouragement for you is a lot of people think they're just simply stuck, and if they don't get their perfect view of what a relationship is, or that perfect person they have in their head, then there might as well not be a future, right? If this is not the future, then I don't want a future at all. But while it is true that not having that person you love and trust really is detrimental and could hold us back from a lot of the wonderful things we want to do in life, it is oftentimes our emotions and a lot of other complicated things that are holding us back rather than just that one factor, okay? The good news is this: everybody, and I wholeheartedly believe that everyone is capable of positive change. There's more life has to offer you than just a spouse. And there's more that the Lord has to offer you than just a spouse. The hardest first step to take, but the most fruitful step you can take, is to realize that change is possible. And there are different possibilities of how life could play out. There's not just one path to life, the one path that you prescribed yourself, your dream reality. You can invest in your family, you can invest in your friends, you can invest in your church, you can invest in yourself, you can invest in studying. Again, I know how hard it is to do this when you're just so very, very lonely and you're all by yourself. And this could take years, but really, the biggest advice I can give you is do not give up. You will one day find a future reality where you can be stable and joyful and happy, whether it is with a spouse or just you and the Lord, or maybe you and some trusted friends. I don't know. But there is a world where you can be like that, because the world didn't end when you were sad about being single on February the 14th, 2024. At least this is what I'll say to myself when I watch this at a future time. Okay? I'll be praying for you. If you have any prayer requests regarding this, just let me know and I'll see if I can get to them. Until next time, God bless you and have a happy Valentine's Day, whether you are alone or if you're with company.